Welcome again, everybody. So excited to have you here for the 3 do's and don'ts of bringing esports to your campus. So to introduce ourselves, I am Katrina Adkins. I have been an educator for over 20 years, taught anything from kindergarten through college. I actually still teach college at a few different universities, and I get to teach esports and gaming. So it's very exciting to keep my foot in the door and continue to work with students on the side of esports. And also, of course, with the USAEL, I'm the VP. And I get to work each and every day with these two amazing people that are also on the webinar. So I'd love to introduce you to Ben.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Ben Posada. I also come from the classroom. I was a math teacher among many things, although my true passion has always been game-based instruction and being able to make learning fun. So when I ended up into my position as a teacher, I really found ways that I could have students play video games or play actual traditional games in order to use those to help them remember what they've learned and really make it enjoyable. And along that line, I ended up teaching people how to play esports and how to get better at these games as well. And during that path, I ended up meeting Rich Conti, who brought me onto the Mastery Coding team and the USAEL team to be able to not only do this within my own classroom, but be able to help other educators do it within theirs. So with that, let me toss it over to him because he's created something pretty amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben, and hello, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Rich, VP of Esports over at Mastery Coding, and sort of have a love of gaming all my life, but particularly for me, it was really deconstructing games and understanding how they worked and the hidden mechanics and depths that are really in a lot of the games that we play nowadays. And, I went to school for game development. And while I went to school, a little game called Overwatch came out, which I was pretty good at, and decided to start a team. And we were pretty successful. And sort of bringing it all around circle, once I started working here at Mastery Coding, teaching students how to create games through coding, we wanted to go one step deeper, and we started creating esports curriculum in order to teach students how they can turn esports into even potentially a coding career, or those types of things. So really excited to be here and get deeper into some of this stuff.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. And I'm going to age myself here because I'll tell you, you both mentioned that you grew up gaming. My first gaming system was an Atari. So definitely aging myself, but, also gamed a lot growing up, Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, I played Duck Hunt. I was awesome at it. And I actually still have my Duck Hunt gun too. So I like to collect those old systems. It's kind of fun. So all right.
Awesome.
So
those are the classics.
They are the classics. So I've got a question for everybody on here today. What do you think of when you hear the words gaming or esports? So in the chat, if you can type in, what do you think of when you hear those words? And while we're waiting for all of you in the chat, Ben, what do you think of when you hear gaming and esports?
Well, I guess my personal, I think of something amazing. I think of fun. I think of interest. I think of students being engaged. But I know when it came to a lot of my coworkers as a teacher, it was often thinking of students staying up late at night, drinking energy drinks, eating chips, playing games, and generally doing something kind of unhealthy. So a lot of my time defining esports has been trying to combat that stigma and trying to show how much value there is to gaming.
I love that. I love that word engagement that you said. Absolutely. So Rich, what about you? What do you think of?
Oh man, when it comes to esports itself, for me, it's a lot of teamwork and collaboration and communication skills. I think these are the types of skills that can sometimes go unnoticed on an esports team, but it leads to the success of the team, right? A team that communicates well can sometimes outperform a team that's communicating poorly but are higher ranked, right? And these are the types of things that I really like about esports.
Oh, I love that. We've got a few people in the chat. Someone said, I think of educational competition. I love that. And playing games and teamwork. Absolutely. I think these are all areas that we definitely think about when we hear gaming and esports. And so throughout the webinar, we're going to talk about some of those things within gaming and esports. But before we do that, I want to talk about what even is esports. In fact, some of you that are on the webinar right now maybe joined because you saw the word esports and you thought, oh, I want to learn more about this. And so I want to start with, what is esports, or actually, what is esports not? Because a lot of times when you hear that word esports or gaming, this is what you think of. You think of, dark basement, gamers down there, they, eating chips and Cheetos and Doritos and whatever else, and energy drinks and Cokes and, all kinds of stuff, and just things, just very unhealthy practice. And honestly, this is the furthest from the truth, because there is so much more to esports than just a game. And we're going to talk about a lot of those behind the scenes things that are going on within academic esports specifically. So in a little bit more detail, esports is short for electronic sports. So what I did is I took the word esports and I broke it down to, really what does esports mean to me? And I came up with endurance, self-esteem, problem solving, objectives, relationships, teamwork, and stamina. And you may even think of other words that could replace some of those words. And I think, as we go throughout the webinar, some words will probably pop up to you in your thinking about that. But as I said, esports is so much more than just a game, as you can see by these words. So something that I think a lot of us in education don't realize, that esports is not brand new. It might be newer to education, but esports and gaming goes way back actually to the 1960s. And I put up an example game. One of the games that was played long ago, actually Space Invaders, was 1970s. But many years ago, there were actual competitions that took place. Now, obviously, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have live streaming and all of those kinds of things, but people would get together face to face and they would compete. And so Space Invaders was one of those games. Another one was Pong. Ben, you mentioned one the other day. What was that first game that came out, Ben?
Space Wars. That was the
Yeah.
first esports tournament that was ever hosted, and it was incredibly exciting.
That is amazing. Now, I do know, I have done some research here, and I do know the pricing for these competitions was nothing like it is today. In fact, I think one of the prizes was they won a t-shirt or a magazine or something like that. And now with esports competitions, literally they win sometimes millions of dollars, depending on how good they are at a game. So it is, it's very interesting. But it's just a great point, just that this has been around for quite a while, and we've learned a lot over the years about what esports is and really what it can bring to the classroom. Just a little more information. When we look at some of these statistics and the overall growth over the next few years, nearly 3.2 billion people played games last year, and spending a combined total of $196.8 billion. And our forecasts show that the market will continue to grow year over year. So if we break that down, the primary driver of the market growth across the world is mobile gaming, which will generate revenues of $103.5 billion actually last year and on into this year. So esports actually has the second highest viewership. Right here it says in the world, but I kind of want to focus on just the US right now. Within the US, what do you think has the first highest viewership? I definitely challenge you in the in our chat here. What do you think has the first highest viewership in the US? The world's a little bit different. So go ahead and put your guesses in, and then I will reveal what the highest viewership is for the US. Any guesses? Not seeing any yet in our chat. They may just be kind of delayed coming in, so I'm going to have to reveal it anyway. The NFL actually has the highest number of viewers in the US, but look at what is second. Esports, gaming, League of Legends, 58 million viewers, followed by baseball, basketball, hockey, all of those areas that you would think would have more viewership, but esports actually has more. It's quite incredible. So when you think about, oh, my kids in my class or my child at home, all they do is sit and watch people game. I don't understand. Well, it's the same thing. We sit and we watch football. We want to see our favorite people play, baseball, basketball, football. It's the same thing with esports. We want to watch people play our favorite games. So when we look at digital viewership for other major esports tournaments, they actually surpass NFL's Thursday night football's opening games. So some of these numbers may surprise you, but it is absolutely interesting. So what does all this mean? To me as an educator, so I'll put my educator hat on, to me this means we need to be paying attention. Our kids are out there, they're watching esports, they're playing games. And so what can we be doing as educators, and what can we be doing in the classroom to bring this in so that students are afforded the opportunity to not only be able to game, but to look behind the scenes and potentially even make a career out of this? So some of the careers that students can move into with esports, I've put over here on the left-hand side, and I know that text is really small. You may not be able to read it, so I included a QR code here for you that you can scan and look at some of these gaming professions. But I keep saying over and over, there's so much behind the scenes going on with esports. And so when we bring it into education, some of these things that you're seeing here on the left are things we can be doing with our students. So it's not just about the game. Students can focus on marketing. They can focus on shoutcasting, or better known as broadcasting, almost like those ESPN announcers. Students absolutely love doing that. You may have students that are interested in game design, or maybe they want to create the logo or the graphics for your local esports team or your team at your school. There's all sorts of different areas for students to get involved. And what I have found just over the past maybe 5 to 7 years is a lot of students that don't necessarily feel they belong in a traditional sport or in the arts, they find a place in esports. They find their people, and that's their place, and they end up going on into some of these STEM and CTE careers, or maybe on into college. Maybe they get a scholarship for esports. So lots of options out there for our students. But I know you have a lot of questions. If you're new to esports, where do I start? And there's a lot involved with starting an esports program at your school, because it's not just about the gaming. So if we were to, go out to the internet and do a search for just esports, esports jobs, there are thousands and thousands of jobs that are out there open right now. And so if we are not, as educators, bringing esports into our schools, we are not allowing our students to even have the chance to move into some of those careers. So where do we start? And I'm going to actually throw this over to Rich, because, Rich, this is challenging. As an educator, I don't even know where to begin. So what can we do?
Yeah, well, one of the first things that I would definitely say is do connect esports to curriculum. By connecting esports to curriculum, it can build that academic engagement, and it helps build more program structure and can lead towards meaningful gaming that we were talking about earlier, right? Not just, autopilot gaming, the kids play a game just for fun and then forget about it. By adding a bit of structure, by adding a little bit of curriculum, you can more lead towards that goal-oriented gaming. As you mentioned earlier, there's also numerous career pathways. And so by connecting esports to curriculum, you can not only make students aware of those different pathways that they might not have known about, but you can even begin educating through those pathways. And up above there, here at USAEL, we've connected a bunch of different courses to between esports and education. And actually, one of our latest products is one that I'm really happy about and proud of. It's called Gamer Math. And we've even put together a little preview for you all here. And we'll play a sneak preview.
Gosh, where was that when I was in school?
Same.
Math just a little bit more, right?
Yeah, one of my mottos, and even our mottos here, is just developing curriculum that we wish we had, right, when we were in school. And so this is an example of one of the ways that we've connected esports and education through curriculum, and specifically in the math area of math. And something cool that I like about gamer math is that oftentimes a lot of players are doing this math anyway as they're playing, even subconsciously. And so we're sort of bringing the hidden into the spotlight, right? Now here you can see that it's not only mathematics, right? There's also CTE connections, all of the careers listed before, and in STEM, right? We hit the mathematics there, but one of my favorite connections to even different career pathways, as mentioned earlier, is game development and game design, right? And so really getting under the hood and understanding how these games are working is not only pretty interesting, but for a lot of gamers, it can make them better players, right? Understanding how the game works can help you make better decisions in how to play them, right? And improve your gameplay. So that's one that I really like in terms of the cross-curricular connections. But in terms of the next do here, we also have do communicate. And in the next slide, you'll see that it's not only communicating with the teachers and admins at your campus, right? You want to get buy-in from your teachers and your administrators, but it's also you want buy-in from the parents too, right? The parents, if you can get them on your side and explain to them the benefits of esports, it'll be that much easier, right, to sign different consent forms or code of conducts, all that types of things. And then there's also communicating with the students, right? In terms of communicating with the students, not only do you want to know what the students are playing and what they enjoy, but the students also need to know about your esports program in order for it to be successful, right? So even in the area of hosting tryouts, they need to know that you're hosting tryouts in order for you to get enough players there, not only to make a team, but also to make a sort of student leadership structure, right? Students can be assistant coaches, students can be analysts, students can get into all these different career fields that we were talking about in terms of broadcast, design, all these types of things. So again, communicating with your student body, understanding what they like, and then getting their buy-in as well. And that kind of leads us to our third do here,
Yeah,
which,
Rich, can I ask a quick question?
yeah, absolutely.
I'm on the parent side of things, and I keep putting on an educator hat, a parent hat. Now I get to wear both of these hats because I am a mom of two gamers. And I know a lot of times parents they struggle with the thought of esports and gaming in schools. That's kind of scary, and especially with screen time and violence, maybe. What are some tips that we could maybe give parents, or maybe to alleviate some of that misconception or stress?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I do want to say at the start here is that all of the games that we've selected to be a part of our programs are totally age appropriate, right? We look at what's called ESRB ratings to see the games that are available and should be played for the different grade levels, and make sure that everything that we are offering is in line with sort of standards and scholastic standards. So in terms of the appropriateness of the games, totally have that covered. But what I might also say in terms of screen time and sort of the other aspects is that this is one of the benefits of bringing esports to a school and helping students and educators build this structure, right? Because the kids are going to be gaming anyway. If we can teach them how to game in a meaningful, again, goal-oriented way that is in line with academic esports standards, right? They'll soon learn that it's not advantageous for them to stay up till 4 a.m. practicing when, they're getting no sleep and their play is deteriorating, right? They'll learn that, hey, getting angry at the game makes me play worse. So I need to maintain my mental. I need to stay calm. I need to take control of, we call it healthy gaming, take control of your body as well as your mental. So all of these sort of are aspects of esports and why we need to help students and schools build this structure so that we can make it healthy for the kids, again, because they're going to be doing it anyway.
I love that. Thank you, Rich.
Absolutely. And then so that third do here is research. And this one is really important. We'll see in the next slide that the first element to this is just why esports. Some of the things that we're talking about here today, again, in order to get the buy-in from admins, in order to get the buy-in from parents and teachers, right? You having a strong understanding of the benefits of esports and the different career paths and the scholarships, all this sort of stuff is really, really important. One of the resources that I might be able to point you to is we do have a white paper on the benefits of esports that does address some different misconceptions that parents or educators might have. So definitely head on over to masterycoding.com and you should find our white paper there. That might help you out on that first A bullet point. Now, the next couple, in terms of games and hardware, it's important for you to research the different types of games that there are in esports. Because when we say the term esports, if I were to make a corollary or a connection to traditional sports, it's very broad, right? There are many different games that can be played in esports. It's like saying, I play basketball or football as opposed to just saying I play sports, right? So first understanding which games your students want to play, but then understanding which games play on which hardware and the different types of hardware that is available to you at your school. And that kind of leads into the next one, the student interest. I mentioned it earlier, where it's important that you know what games your students are actually playing, but we can help you out also in terms of sending out those interest forms and getting feedback from kids, what games they're playing, if they want to be sort of support staff, if they have the consoles at home in order to practice, like these types of things, right? So researching, again, your student body and getting their interest is a big part of this as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben, for putting that white paper in the chat. So that's there for everyone to access and read, of course, on your time. So a quick story. So in terms of student interest, I actually had a school that they were so excited to start an esports program. They thought, yeah, we'll get, 30, 40 students in here. They put out an interest form and 500 students responded that they wanted to be a part of the esports team. And so why that's so important is because, if you have 500 students that are interested in this, how are you going to manage it, right? So I think that student interest form is definitely key to starting a program. So thank you so much, Rich. So I know there's some don'ts here too, right, Ben? Some don'ts to starting an esports program. So Ben, I would love to hear more about those.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah, so there are so many different pitfalls that we can fall into. And one of the hard parts of doing anything new is, well, not necessarily falling into all of them yourself, learning from what other people have already experienced and being able to take those lessons yourself. And one of the ones that I found to be most common is teachers trying to take on too much, because we care about the kids. We care about making this the best experience for them. And it's so easy for us to say, oh, yeah, I could do that. I could do this. I could do that too. And all of a sudden, in addition to our full-time job as teachers, we take on so many extra responsibilities. And I really strongly believe that running an esports program is a worthy one. But we also have to be careful of our time and making sure that we're not going too deep and taking on too much at once. We always have the ability to add on more down the road. So starting a little bit smaller, getting everything running, understanding the processes, getting support from other teachers, from administration, even from students, like Rich said, is a great way to start building up that program so you can expand in years 2 and 3. So when we say don't take on too much, we mean don't take on too many games. One of the things that I often hear is, it's esports, it's one thing. Let's just do an esports. And it's not one thing. That's like saying traditional sports is one thing. But a tennis player isn't the same as a football player. Those are very different skill sets. And esports are very much the same, where they have different skill sets. So if you try to offer every single esport available, oh my goodness, you're never going to have another sleeping moment in your life. Start small. Have 2, maybe 3 different esports, each from a different category, to get those students interested and get them involved, but don't spread yourself too thin. Similarly, like Katrina was saying, be careful with adding on too many students at once. Hosting tryouts is important because you can't go from no program to a 500 student program without some significant support. So hosting tryouts and limiting it to the most dedicated, the most passionate students, the ones who could take leadership roles in future years to help expand the program with you, that's going to be one of the best avenues to success. Similarly, it's that organization of making sure that you are approaching this and taking your lessons and having others support you. If you just throw everybody into a room to play, it's going to get chaotic. But if you start assigning roles, you track student data such as who's coming, what days, what times are they active, which games are they, all of a sudden you create systems that will make this much easier for you. And lastly is competition. I have seen schools say, yeah, we just started an esport program, so we signed up for every league we could find. And I said, oh, how'd that go? They're like, I'm tired. I'm really, really tired. I'm like, yeah, I would imagine. There's a lot of leagues out there. Take on a league, maybe 2 leagues if you're really pushing. But don't try to sign up for everything at once. Don't take on too much. Make sure that you're giving yourself room to grow for the future years and taking a sizable bite, a bite that you could be able to take in year 1. That's our first, be careful, our first don't. Our second is don't focus on the bling. It is so easy to say, oh, but it looks so cool. I like the shiny lights. I like the RGB, and you're not wrong. I mean, I've got it. It's right next to me. I love it. I think it looks great. But also, that's not the first thing I built. It's not the first thing you should build. Get a program up and running before you go for the bells and whistles. You can make it look pretty once it's fully functional. But if it's all pretty and not functional, you're not going to be able to continue it forward. So make sure that you aren't focusing too much on the bling and that you are making sure that you're focusing on getting the students involved in that organization. Similarly, so many programs think that you need to start with the best hardware available. I had one school that they bought an entire lab of the like highest ranked Alienware PC. And oh my goodness, they spent so much on hardware. They absolutely did not need to. And you know, it doesn't hurt. Hardware is helpful. But you can start with the graphic design computer lab or with the coding computer lab. You don't need these fancy devices to get a program up and running. Then once you get it up and running, you'll get that nice budget from the administration and from maybe even something like the PTA to really support you and get that off the ground. So you don't need these fancy systems. Don't feel like you do. You can start with a pretty low budget program. And lastly, when it comes to the bling, is everybody thinks, oh, I need to enter the tournament. I need to win it. If my team isn't in top 4, I don't know why they're participating. And that is honestly very discouraging to me, because similar to traditional sports, esports have a ton of values for the students, even if they're not winning, or even if they're not winning everything. It's about teamwork. It's about communication, collaboration, feeling like you have a place that you belong. These are the real tenets of esports. So don't define your success by your ability to win a tournament or win a championship. Although if you do, I mean, props to you. You should define your success primarily by how many students are you impacting? How many people are you really helping have a better educational experience? So that's going to include our second don't. But I do also want to show off a little bit of what that finalized program might look like once you get that bling, because I like to work towards goals.
Welcome to the fortress.
Wow.
Pretty
This
cool.
is unbelievable. This is high tech.
It's very high tech.
My goodness, it's not even open yet,
Not even open, yeah.
but we're getting this really special sneak peek. Tell us about this place.
Absolutely. So this is the largest esports arena on any college campus in the country, which is pretty awesome. But here at Full Sail, this is a brand new space, not only for our students, but it's also a classroom. This room is probably the most technologically advanced right now on the campus, seeing how it's brand new. We've got about 354 different LED panels in the room, which brings us just shy of 10 million pixels.
Oh my goodness.
There's
Because 9 million wasn't enough.
Yeah,
9 million
it wasn't.
pixels wasn't enough. We had to do 10 million pixels in this room. I want this in my living room at home.
Who doesn't?
I mean, this is. Tell me, how big is this screen here? It's got to be 30 feet wide.
It is huge. It is
Absolutely enormous. Okay, so what is the jumbotron here used for primarily?
So this is where you would actually see gameplay during any tournament. If they were in this setup,
Yeah.
you would have teams set up on both sides playing, and then behind you, you would be switching between the different perspectives from each player. As well, up on the walls, you would see player profiles. These are all student athletes here at Full Sail.
Yeah, let's talk about these player profiles. These.
Awesome.
That's
I
a
mean,
lot of bling, Ben.
Yeah. Like it makes me think of Madison Square Garden when I see that arena. Like that is what I experienced going to an amazing like sporting event or a concert. Like, oh my goodness. If you are able to get your program that big, oh my, you're
They're
going to
students.
attract all the
Welcome to the
students.
fortress.
All right. So our final don't is don't start too late. It's so common that we think that esports is an adult thing or a college thing or maybe a high school thing. Some people are getting there, but in reality, it starts even earlier. The average age of a professional Fortnite player, and I'm talking about people making hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars playing this game, the average age is 16 years old. So that means if they had waited to start until college, well, they're already past the average. If they waited to start till high school, maybe in a year or two, they could get to a competitive level, but not the top competitive level. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes practice, the same as you would expect of any sport. So these students, they started playing esports, and I don't mean playing unhealthily. I mean dedicating themselves to improvement, practice, and career readiness in middle school and in elementary school, because that is when you need to focus on getting the skills needed for something like esports. So when it comes to grade levels, we always recommend that you start a program in roughly mid elementary school, once the students are ready to go, once they're ready to take on those beginner skills. And I highlight them as beginner because these aren't going to be the students competing for millions of dollars. That's unrealistic, and that's honestly unhealthy. We don't want that. But we want them getting a lot of the benefits of esports. We want them learning about teamwork and communication and collaboration and the social etiquette of being on a team. I mean, these are really crucial things for anybody to learn. So why don't we start young? So at the USAEL, we have this program for specifically elementary students to be able to get into competition without a lot of those extra parameters that you shouldn't experience until middle school or high school or even later. We want them just getting the huge benefits that I said earlier. Secondly, if we start too late, we're going to end up stopping other types of people from joining. We know that a lot of the traditional view of esports is male dominated, but more and more we are seeing females enter this space because they started playing young. They started often with Minecraft or another similar game in elementary school. They started learning a lot about the competitive nature, the teamwork, and by middle school, high school, all of a sudden, they're at that same competitive level as their male peers. So if we don't start young, then we're going to end up disenfranchising these other groups, such as females or other minorities. Now, in addition to it being disenfranchising them from esports, it also disenfranchises them from STEM. And we have a huge STEM push within the United States because we need those careers. There's a huge career placement opportunity post-college if you follow a STEM field. And over 50% of students who go to college with an esports scholarship or some type of esports related interest, they go into a STEM field. So we can promote STEM and these career readiness opportunities for everybody, but we need to start young so that they're interested, so that they have those skills. And this is the most important because what do we care about when it comes to our students? Well, we want them to be well-rounded individuals, and we want them to have a career that they can rely on and something that they can feel passionate about. So by starting young, we're able to hit both of those points very easily, as well as they're going to love it and it's going to be great. So these are my 3 don'ts of esports. These are the pitfalls that I have seen people fall into and that I hope you can learn from our experiences with.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ben. Actually, talking about, don't start too late. You mentioned elementary, starting esports in elementary. That is absolutely wild. And coming from a kindergarten teacher, I mean, gosh, if I was back in the classroom in elementary, that would be awesome. I would be the first to say I want to be the esports coach. So, Rich, what would this look like for elementary?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So in elementary, we're actually building a special offering, and this is going to be focused within Minecraft. And here you could see some of what's included in the elementary USAEL offering, but this is another one that I'm very much excited for. So this is actually game-based learning where the students will be within Minecraft, and we're teaching them, number one, about basically social studies. They'll be going throughout different eras in history and learning about different time periods and the societies at the time while recreating it. But number 2, they're also going to be learning ELA or language arts, right? So they're going to be reading about the different time periods as they're physically there within the game and moving around and exploring these different places. So that's one part of the elementary offering. The second part is we're also including, of course, SEL lesson plans around the world of esports. These are video-based, making it really easy for any school or teacher to pick up and implement in the classroom, and also really easy for the students to stay engaged in the program, right? These video-based esports lessons. And then, of course, we have professional development, but another thing that I'm really excited about in the realm of competition and esports, in the next slide, you'll see that there's actually competition baked in. So rather than it being sort of highly competitive, the students at the elementary school are all against each other. It's actually a little bit more collaborative of a competition where each elementary school is going to work together to build something throughout the different eras in time, throughout history. And so each month there will be sort of a checkpoint where they need to build something from the Paleolithic era. They need to build something from the Neolithic era. Please build a pyramid. I love pyramids. So, then they can submit those projects to competition. Again, there'll be rubrics, there'll be prizes, there'll be scoring. And again, it's still a competition against other schools, but it's a little bit more collaborative in the elementary space, which is something that I'm really proud of and I'm hoping that the schools will enjoy.
I love it. This is truly STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math through and through. Fantastic. So to sum up everything that we talked about here, our 3 do's and our 3 don'ts: do connect to the curriculum, do communicate, do your research, don't take on too much, don't focus on the bling, and don't start too late. So hopefully you gained some information from today's webinar. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. If you would like a demo, if you need resources, if you want to schedule a meeting,